What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Ridge, back to bring your MLB props for July the 3rd. Yesterday, Giancarlo hit a nice bomb for me. Very good. Very excited to see that. And Julio Rodriguez also got a steal to hit the over for his prop. And unfortunately, Seth Brown decided to do nothing. He drew a walk, and that was it. That was all she wrote. Oakland couldn't continue to get it done, unfortunately. But maybe today? Probably not against Robbie Ray, but what are we going to do? You can't win them all, but still 2 for 3, not so bad. And I believe there's a few other plays that I gave you guys that were okay as well. Today is a bit of a weird slate, though, to be honest. I don't love it. So if you don't play today, that's not the worst thing in the world. But let's get into the actual plays. O'Neal Cruz, Freddie Freeman, Christopher Morel, Brian Reynolds, and Carlos Stanton, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and Wander Franco. Bunch of great players on this, short list that I have for you here, but there's a lot of big question marks. First of all, Brandon Woodruff versus O'Neal Cruz, not good. Brandon Woodruff came back off injury. He had 1 start, 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, so I'm not exactly inclined to play anybody against Brandon Woodruff today. Now, O'Neal Cruz does have a line of 4.5, which is very appealing. So I don't hate it overall, and you can see, his numbers have been pretty good over the season. He's averaging about 8 points per game. But against Woodruff, man, I don't know. I don't think I can go there. Freddie Freeman up against Mackenzie Gore, the freaking phenom prospect out of San Diego. Dude is just lightning in a bottle right now. I love watching Mackenzie Gore pitch. He's super talented. But the issue with Freeman is he's been pretty hot as well, right? 13.77 over his last 14, 11.29 over his last 7. You see over a hit and a half per game, 3 total bases per game. So here's the problem with this matchup, right? So Matt Gore, phenomenal pitcher, has a 200 batting average against left-handed hitters. Freddie Freeman has a 289 average against left-handed pitchers. So what's going to give here? Is Freddie Freeman going to continue to be the Freddie Freeman we've always seen? Or is Mackenzie Gore going to get the best of this Dodger lineup? The Dodgers have not been great against lefties this year, but Freddie Freeman is actually surprisingly pretty good. His splits against lefties and righties are pretty close. He hits about 316 off righties and 289 against lefties. Like I mentioned, Gore much better against lefties than against righties, which is the case for a lot of lefties. So I think he's like a maybe play right now. He's been playing really, really well. Total of 7.5, which is, brought down a little bit because of Gore. Gore hasn't been the best pitcher in the world, but I think there's a world where he does rack up a ton of strikeouts. And Freeman, being a lefty, probably has the tougher matchup of all the guys. Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, all those guys have better matchups, in my opinion, against Matt Gore. But Freddie could get it done, so if you do want to play him, I don't hate it overall. Then Christopher Morel, who's been on fire this series against Boston. Dude is just lighting it up right now. But the issue is we don't know who's starting for Boston. It could be Connor Seabold, who, in my opinion, was really good against Toronto. If you go look at his stats, he did allow, I believe, 2 or 3 home runs against Toronto a few days ago in his very first start ever, but was nasty. He had really nice stuff, got some strikeouts, was able to limit some of the walks a little bit, but it was just he couldn't get out of his own way, and he threw a couple cement mixers out there. Home run balls really killed him. But against the Cubs, though, I think there's a better opportunity for him there. So it's weird. The books have 2 guys who could start. It's Seabold or it's Waka. So make sure you check to see who's going to be starting. If it's Seabold, I still think he's better than the numbers indicate. So we have Morel at a 6.5. The PrizePicks doesn't really know what to do with them either. They don't know who's starting. They don't know what to do with Seabold based on how he started. His ERA and stuff isn't the best, but I think he did pitch surprisingly well overall. So I wouldn't be all after the Cubs. I think Morel has been pretty good, and so if you wanted to play him, I don't hate it. But if it's Waka has been a little bit better than Seabold for sure, and he's been playing really, really well. So I wouldn't necessarily play those guys, and that's really concerns here. Then you have Brian Reynolds up again against Brandon Woodruff, who... Man, Reynolds has been really good, though. He's been really, really good. And so if you wanted to run like a little Pirate stack, I don't hate it if you really believe that Woodruff's going to not have the best game. But, I mean, we'll see. The Pirates are putting up a ton of runs the past 2 games. So have the Brewers, frankly. So it could be another high-scoring affair in Pittsburgh. But I wouldn't necessarily want to go all in on these guys because Woodruff is so good. He's probably not going to pitch a ton of innings, but he will definitely rack up the strikeouts. And if any indication that he had last time out, the Pittsburgh Pirates could be in trouble today. So I do like Woodruff, and I would probably be fading the Pirates if it was my money. Then let's get into Giancarlo Stanton, who sucked in the first game. Like, when I tell you how upset I was with Stanton, game 1, first 2 at-bats, he had 2 guys on, 1 out, and got 0 production out of both. He struck out twice, I'm pretty sure, in 5 at-bats. The Yankees put up like 13 runs in game 1. Dude did straight nothing. Then the next game comes around, Stanton hits a bomb in like the second at-bat. I was like, Okay, now we're friends again, right? Now we're good. So Stanton again, I like in Cleveland today. Now the winds are blowing in Cleveland. So that's going to help T-Mac a little bit, but T-Mac has been allowing a ton of home runs this season. I believe in almost every start he's allowed 1 or 2 home runs. He's been averaging almost 2 home runs per start over the past few games. So that's really the big issue for Tristan McKenzie. As much as I love him, think he's great for strikeouts if you like his strikeout prop, but Stanton could definitely get a long bomb off of him. The issue for Stanton, as you see right here, is this 0.69 hits per game. He's been a literal home run or bust. I believe like each of his last, I think something like 16 or maybe not 16, but like 10 of his last 15 hits have all been home runs. He's been hitting home runs, and that is it. But if you like Stanton, which I do today, I think there's a really good shot that the Yankees win this game again. Obviously, they have Jordan Montgomery on the mound, and I think there's a really good shot that Stanton does go over. But he's got to put the ball in play a little bit more. That's really the only issue for Stanton, is that he's just been hitting home runs, which is great. But I don't love to take a player who's home run or bust, but I do like him today. Then let's get into some unders. I want to talk about John Gray for a minute, who is a pitcher, who used to be in Colorado, has a wicked fastball, but we'll see kind of what happens in this matchup. I don't love the matchup against the Mets, but the Mets haven't been playing very well. You see on the season, Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor, 8.5 points, 9.3 points, but over the past 7 days, 4.4, 5.2, almost a hit per game, which is a little bit low for these guys, 0.27 runs per game, half an RBI per game, which is, pretty reasonable for even these guys. But I mean, John Gray's just been phenomenal. I believe it's the past 3 starts, he's only allowed less than 2 runs. He's gone 5.2 innings or more. He had one really bad start against the Cleveland Indians, I believe, or the Cleveland Guardians on the 7th or the 12th. But since that start, when he allowed 5 runs, he's lowered his ERA by a whole point, from like 4.8 to 3.9 or something. So he's pitching really, really well, racking up the strikeouts. So that's the reason why you see his pitch factor is so low, because as of recent times and over the past month or so, he's been playing very, very well. Like I mentioned, ton of strikeouts. He's not allowing a lot of hits. He's been not allowing runs pretty much, period. I believe he's only allowed 4 runs in his last 3 starts. So again, a guy who's just pitching really, really well right now. I mean, I don't love an under for Pete or Lindor, but if there's a world where you think they can go under, this is the type of environment where you want to go after them. They're playing in New York, which is not much of a hitter's park. You see the park factor here. Gray's been pitching phenomenally, and you have these lofty 8.5 point totals. These game logs are a little bit outdated over here. I haven't had the time to update them yet, but you see they haven't been playing very well. Like, they're not hitting this 8.5 number very often, and even in recent games, the Mets haven't been scoring a ton of runs, so I do like an under there. And then you have Wander Franco, who he's been getting a little better. Recently came back. Now, like I mentioned, the game logs are updated right now, but an 8.5 for Wander Franco is a little bit much. Yesterday, the Rays obviously put up a ton of runs in game 2, and actually they put up a ton of runs in game 1 as well. When Kevin Gausman got hurt, we wanted to see this great pitching matchup, Shane McClanahan versus Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman got hurt in the 2nd inning, and then that was that. The Rays were off and running, and in game 2, they just let Hatch just go out there and throw pitches until he basically burnt out. Stripling, on the other hand, though, is interesting, right? Because he's not a big strikeout guy, but he's been limiting contact. And this is a start they need badly from Stripling. Stripling's been so good, but if he can't have a good start here, then the Jays are really in trouble. So that's my only fear, is that they have a very taxed bullpen. They need Stripling to be good. I believe that he can be good, but Franco has been heating up a little bit lately. He's been playing much better. So I don't love an under for Franco, but I think, if you did want to play it, I just don't hate it. I think, you're looking at Pete and Lindor as 2 potential unders here. You see the pitch value factor is not great for Wander Franco either. I'd be fine if you wanted to play unders. I don't hate them. It's just, again, you see the data here, these very high totals against pitchers that are playing very well right now, even the ballpark factor for the Mets versus the Rangers, and you see the pitch val factor here. I have them all projected for about under 5 points or so. A hit and a walk, maybe a run, maybe an RBI, but not a ton we're going to see here from these guys overall. So for me, I just think I'd be staying away from a lot of these guys. O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Morel is like a maybe for me. I don't mind playing Freddie. I like Stanton a lot, and I'd probably play 1 or 2 of these unders if you want to make it a little bit bigger and go a little bit lower on your risk allocation. But, favorite under, I mean, it's probably got to be Lindor in a lot of ways, because Lindor's going to be batting in the prime spot, but I think I want to go the under on Lindor. Pete's been the worst by far. You see the 4.4 over the last 7 up against Gray, who's, you know, primarily fastball guy, but you see Lindor is the guy who's really struggled against the fastball, and I think that's the reason why I'd want to take Lindor on the under more than anybody else. He can get a steal, so there is that fear there. And then Franco is just simply too high for me. I just don't think there's a world where he necessarily goes over. He could, but again, it just depends on how the Jays ultimately deploy their arms. And on top of that, they also travel tomorrow too. They have to play, I believe, in Oakland tomorrow. So it's a really difficult day. We probably don't see Vlad play today because he played three games in 2 days. Over the past couple days, they had the doubleheader yesterday. So we'll see. I mean, I would go pretty light today. I'm not seeing a ton that I like. I mean, I do like Stanton. I don't mind Freddie, and I don't mind, you know, one of these guys as an under if you want to make a little 3-pick play. But overall, that's kind of how I see the slate today. It's a tough slate, honestly. Like, there's not a ton of edges that I really liked. Even from a stacking perspective, there's not a ton of games I really like. You know, you could go after Atlanta. Atlanta's been putting up a lot of runs. But overall, I mean, it's tough. You know, Austin Riley, I believe he's hit a home run in both games in Cincinnati. But again, today he's up against Luis Castillo. So it should be a better matchup between Charlie Moore and Luis Castillo. A little bit lower scoring than we've seen from Atlanta Cincinnati so far this series. So that's tough. I mean, we'll see what happens today, but I would probably go light, enjoy the day. We'll get back tomorrow for July 4th. Should be fun. Lots of day baseball, a lot of great matchups. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, if you tail, give them hell. And if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow with more data-driven analysis and picks. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck today, and I'm out. Peace. Like and subscribe. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and share with your friends so they can win too. Thank you.